तो सबसे पहले हम अपने ज्योग्राफी का आज जो क्लास में हुआ था उसकी रिवीजन करेंगे। ये आज का सबसे पहला आता है टेम्परेचर इन्वर्जन। टेम्परेचर इन्वर्जन क्या होता है? रेफर्स टू एन एटमॉस्फेरिक कंडीशन है ये, जिसमें कि इंक्रीज इन हाइट देयर इज एन इंक्रीज इन टेम्परेचर। हाइट के साथ साथ देयर इज एन इंक्रीज इन टेम्परेचर रादर देन यूजुअल रिलेशनशिप शोन बाय ईएलआर। तो मतलब ईएलआर में क्या था कि भाई हाइट के साथ टेम्परेचर घटता था, लेकिन इसमें क्या होता है कि इसमें हाइट बढ़ेगी तो टेम्परेचर भी बढ़ेगा। ठीक है, टेम्परेचर वर्जन इज अ फिनोमेना प्राइमरली रिलेट्स टू ट्रोपोस्फेयर। तो मतलब ज़्यादातर हम इसको ट्रोपोस्फेयर से रिलेट करते हैं। ठीक है, अब हम इसके 3-4 क्वेश्चन देखेंगे क्या क्या थे इसमें। वाई देयर इज स्पेशियल एंड टेम्पोरल वेरिएशन इन द हाइट ऑफ ट्रोपोस्फेयर। ठीक है, द टेम्परेचर at height of troposphere over the equator is around minus 80 degrees Celsius. The temperature of troposphere over the North Pole and South Pole is around minus 45 degrees Celsius. इसमें apparent paradox ये है कि over equator there is low temperature as compared to poles. Since the lower latitudes are mostly जैसे कि जो lower latitudes है are most intensely heated areas है, these latitude have the strongest convection current। the इन latitude में strongest convection currents होते हैं। warmer the air higher it rises। ठीक है, strong convection current है क्योंकि भाई जो warm up air है वो ज़्यादा ऊंची तक जाती है। जैसे कि warmer air rise हुई it get automatically cool, वो cool भी जल्दी हो जाएगी। as a result, अब result क्या निकलता है? The decrease in temperature is seen up to greater elevation। decrease in temperature was seen up to greater elevation over the lower latitudes, in particularly over the equator, generally up to 16 to 18 किलोमीटर। मतलब इसलिए भाई यहाँ पे ज़्यादा हीट होती है तो मतलब ज़्यादा राइज करेगी, वो ज़्यादा ग्रेटर हाइट तक राइज करेगी, तो इसलिए 16 से 18 किलोमीटर तक ये राइज करती है। जैसे कि हम ऊपर जाएंगे लैटिट्यूड में, कन्वेक्शन गेट वीकर, कन्वेक्शन जो कि वो वीकर हो जाएगी एंड वार्म एयर राइजेस टू लोअर एलिवेशन, जिसका रिजल्ट क्या निकलेगा? द डिक्रीज इन टेम्परेचर सीन अप टू लोअर एलिवेशन, डिक्रीज इन टेम्परेचर जो सीन अप टू लोअर एलिवेशन पर्टिकुलरली ओवर द पोल्स जनरली अप टू 8 से 10 किलोमीटर तक। दिस ऑल एक्सप्लेन, ये क्या एक्सप्लेन करता है? स्पेशियल वेरिएशन in the height of tropopause as shown in the diagram. Beside the spatial variation, the height of tropopause also varies temporally. For example, summer is a time for stronger convection and hence higher elevation of tropopause for a given place. It is apparently a paradox that the lowest temperature in troposphere is vertically overhead. ठीक है, मतलब कि क्या है, लोएस्ट टेम्परेचर है ट्रोपोस्फेयर का इज वर्टिकली ओवरहेड एट द इक्वेटर rather than at the poles. In geography we study atmosphere to understand the weather condition of the world। ज्योग्राफी में हम, अब देखो ये हो गया। अब इसका दूसरा क्वेश्चन देखेंगे, वाई ट्रोपोस्फेयर इज ट्रू एटमोसफेयर। इसको हम ट्रू एटमोसफेयर ही क्यों मानते हैं? In geography, the study of atmosphere to understand the weather condition of the world। भाई ज्योग्राफी हम एटमोसफेयर को पढ़ते हैं to study the weather condition of the world। Most of what comprises weather remain confined within troposphere। जो भी comprise weather remains confined within troposphere। Troposphere is real weather sphere of nature। troposphere जो होता है वो real weather sphere है nature का। This is so because the troposphere act as lid. This is so because the tropopause act as a lid of the troposphere. Generally does not allow the penetration of weather element clouds into the stratosphere. This is so because there occur a case of temperature inversion across tropopause. This is so because there occur a case of temperature inversion across the tropopause. The colder condition lie beneath the warmer condition. Beneath the warmer condition. अब देखते हैं why troposphere is called troposphere. The air near the Earth's surface get warm by Earth out radiation. As warm air rises, it get adiabatically cooled. जैसे कि warm air बढ़ेगी तो वो adiabatically cool हो जाएगी. And this cold air cannot go beyond the tropopause and sink back. As it sinks, it get adiabatically warm, and near the Earth's surface it also get warm by Earth out radiation. This warm air rise again as the result of troposphere became the zone of atmosphere in which Earth in which air keeps itself turning itself. ठीक है, मतलब ट्रोपोज एक वर्ड है. ट्रोपोज का मतलब होता है लैटिन में टर्न. अब आता है आइसोथर्मल जोन क्या होता है. It is a zone in atmosphere in which with increase in height there is relatively consistency of temperature. The lower part of stratosphere just above the troposphere in general represent isothermal condition. In this zone with increase in height, temperature does not decrease as much as there is not much convection here. In this zone with increase in height, temperature does not increase much as not much there is not much ozone here. This zone provides the ideal flying condition for the aircraft for the following three major regions. In general, absence of clouds. In general, absence of strong convectional currents. In general, the presence of isothermal conditions. तो अब एक लास्ट है. ट्रोपोस्फेरिक एयर सर्कुलेशन अर्थ रोटेशन. इक्वेटोरियल पर्सपेक्टिव से वेस्ट टू ईस्ट मूव करते हैं. नॉर्थ पोल पर्सपेक्टिव से एंटी क्लॉकवाइज. साउथ पोल पर्सपेक्टिव से क्लॉकवाइज. सेल क्या होता है. The term cell is in atmospheric science refers to three-dimensional circulation of air involving whole मतलब क्या होता है. Term cell refers to three-dimensional circulation of air involving whole troposphere resulting in a closed loop as shown in diagram. Earth speed. The Earth angular speed. Earth spins once in 24 hours. Therefore, the Earth uniform angular speed is 15 degree per hour. Earth rotational speed. Rotational speed equal to distance traveled upon by time taken. Earth is spherical in shape and therefore Earth gets smaller in higher latitude. This d1 to d5 क्या है? Are the distances to be covered by the Earth along the parallel P to P5 for completion of spin in 24 hours. S1 to S5 are the Earth rotational speed along different parallel from P1 to P5. This implies that D1 जो बड़ा है ये D2 से D3 D4 D5 से S1 इससे ऐसे कर करके बड़ा है. तो Earth is implies ये करता है इसमें. तो Earth is spherical in shape and therefore Earth get increasingly smaller in higher latitude. This implies distance to be traveled by Earth for completion of a spin in 24 hours decreases progressively from equator to poles, and symbolically distance जो है Earth rotational speed is maximum at the equator and it decreases progressively from equator to pole symbolically. तो ये हो गया. अब हम थोड़ा हिस्ट्री का पढ़ेंगे आज. Candelera Jariaki. Diga, así que tienes que verlo. हाँ, इसमें देखते हैं यूरोपियन पेनिट्रेशन इनटू इंडिया. The traders के turn overnight into the ruler as captor, meaning explain. कि देखिए India's trade relationship with Europe was established as long as in 4 BC, when Alexander the Great of Macedonia conquered the region of Gandhara and Takshila in 326 BC, thus making the Europeans aware about the Indian geography, society, and various products of India, which soon became high in demand in Europe during the Middle Ages. Compared from 5th to 15th century, the trade was being carried out by merchants various merchants communities like Bhuras, Oswas, Chettiars, and Banjaras across the regions of the Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf, across Central Asia, over the mountain passes of the northwest frontier of India, and routes like the सिल्क रूट ठीक है भाई इंडिया के ट्रेड रिलेशन थे यूरोप के साथ एस्टेब्लिश एज लॉन्ग बैक कब से जब अलेक्जेंडर द ग्रेट ने मैसेडोनिया की conquer कर दिए थे regions of Gandhara and Takshila in 326 with thus making European aware about the Indian geography, society, and various products of India which soon became high demand in Europe. Middle Ages मिडल एजेस कब से कब तक की होती है लेट 5 से लेट 15th सेंचुरी तक and the trade was being carried out by various merchants communities like this and across the regions of Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, and Persian Gulf, Central Asia, or Silk Route. What were these Indian products which were so high in demand in Europe? The Indian spices like Indian products जो कि हाई डिमांड इन यूरोप जैसे इंडिया की स्पाइसेस जो होगी जैसे कार्डमम क्लोव्स पेपर सिनेमन विच हैज टर्म्ड एट यवन प्रिया मतलब goods which are liked by foreigners yavanas were exported in such a large number that Greek historians Pliny complain in Notoria's Historia that Rome is being drained out of gold by Indians. In return, India were importing gold, horses, wines, amphorae jars, mm, Sigiata, Terra Sigiata, red glaze pottery. However, the curious mind may wonder at this stage that if such a well-established land trade route already exists, then what was the need for search of maritime route to India by Europeans, and why such maritime route became so important in the 15th century CE? भाई अबे प्लिनी ने कौन सी बुक लिखी थी नोट्रेस रीजन फॉर अराइवल ऑफ यूरोपियंस टू इंडिया भाई रीजन क्या क्या थे भाई कि ये जो इंडिया में आएंगे भाई सबसे पहले हम रीजंस देखेंगे भाई यूरोपियंस इंडिया में आए क्यों थे मोटिवेशन टू द वेस्ट मोटिवेशन क्या मिली थी भाई वेस्ट में हमें कि भाई वो इसकी वजह से यहाँ पे आए some historians have argued that the 3G God, glory, and gold were the prime motivation factors for European explorers to land on Indian shores. However, this is simplistic explanation, and the answer to this question lies deeper in other factors. Decline of overland trade route and monopoly of Italian state. Firstly, capture of Constantinople, modern day Istanbul, by Ottoman Turks, leading to fall of Byzantine Empire in 1453. Thus, Ottoman imposed various tolls and trade blockages, making the trade across the land route via Persia minor, highly expensive and unprofitable for European traders. The rise of Ottomans as Sultan of Egypt also hindered the monopoly, enjoyed by Venetian and Genoan merchants in the Mediterranean Sea regions. Resonance, curiosity, and knowledge. Henry the Navigator in 1394, the son of King John I of Portugal, imbibed the spirit of resonance, imbibed the spirit of resonance means imbibed the spirit of renaissance means hmm, imbibed the spirit of renaissance imbibe मतलब imbibe the spirit of absorb and adopted the idea of by the and age of discovery in Europe and led the exploration of Western Africa and island of Atlantic Ocean. Religious motive. Many European explorers were also motivated by desire to spread Christianity and counter Islam. The Reconquista, Reconquista in Spain. In Spain, which ended Muslim rule in Iberia, was a significant influence in this direction. For example, the Pope Nicholas V issued religious charter to the Henry the Navigator to explore regions up to Indies, India, to counter the growing influence of Islam in the region. Geopolitical competition. The rise of nation states in Western Europe, such as Portugal, Spain, Britain, etc., led to growing conflict among these European nations to establish trade relations with the golden bird of ancient time to increase their economic might for political benefits in Europe. Technological advancements. The innovations in astronomical observation, shipbuilding, cartography, marine compass, and the use of firearms made reconnaissance, reconnaissance, reconnaissance expedition, reconnaissance Reconnaissance expedition feasible means royal patronage exploration monarchs like King Emmanuel I of Portugal and Queen Isabella I of Spain funded ex- exploratory voyages in hope of gaining wealth and prestige. Thus, the European exploration of sea route to India was the complex interplay of economic ambitions, technological advancements, culture curiosity, religious zeal. Political rivalry and desire for the new trade routes. Condition in the East. The European, particularly Portuguese exploration, European exploration, and eventually dominance of sea routes to the east was supported by conditions in the East, particularly in India during the late 15th and early 16th century. The condition in India region can be summarized as the follows. English, English dance, French. This is not French. This is my English. This is our French. Fragmenting political landscape in northern India. During this period, northern India was divided among various small kingdoms and principalities called the House of Cards by historian Shekhar Bandopadhyay, which was bound to fall. The lack of political unity made it difficult to exhibit a coordinated resistance to external maritime powers. The situation in the Deccan and Gujarat. In the Deccan region, the once most powerful Bahmani kingdom was disintegrated into smaller kingdoms. In the Deccan region, once powerful Bahmani kingdom was disintegrated into smaller kingdoms, each vying for power and influence, resulting in political fragmentation of the region. Moreover, even Gujarat, under the rule of Mahmud Bera, could not focus significantly on developing naval strength. ठीक है, BYING। The lack of naval power during this period, none of the regional power in India has significant naval capability to counter the maritime capability of European, particularly the Portuguese, thus leaving the Indian subcontinent vulnerable to incursions by sea. Incursions. Chinese maritime policy. In the Far East, the maritime policy of the Chinese emperor greatly reduced the Chinese naval presence in Indian Ocean, creating an easy way for Portuguese and other European states into the region. Decline of Arab dominance in Indian ocean trade. Until the arrival of Portuguese, Arab merchants and ship owners have had been dominant in Indian ocean trade. Until the arrival of Portuguese, Arab merchants and ship owners has been dominant in Indian ocean trade. The Portuguese cara- caravels armed with cannons and advanced navigator armed with cannons and advanced navigator tools were far superior to ships used by Arab traders. To summarize, during late 15th and early 16th century, the European, particularly the Portuguese and Spanish, were eager to find a direct sea route uh, to the rich markets of Asia, especially India. Their economic and political needs back at home was further supplemented by fragmented political condition in India, thus creating a window of opportunity for Europeans to extract advantageous trade treaties with the local Indian ruler. Okay. Ah, kita bochnu aqui, pau aí. Hum. Ravaki. The subsequent major European power coming to India, subsequently Portuguese, the pioneers. Oh yeah. Portuguese come closer. In 1487, Portuguese mariners and explorer Bartolomeu Dias rounds Cape of Good Hope. Treaty of Tordesillas between Portuguese and Spain, where Portugal and Spain divided the new discovery islands. The Portuguese were the first European power to come to India when the Portuguese voyager Vasco da Gama arrived on the shore of Kozhikode in Calicut in May 1489. He was warmly received by Zamorin, local Indian ruler, whose name was Samutri. After staying for over 3 months, he started his return journey in August of 1489 and returned with a cargo which sold for 60 times of the cost of his voyage. These and other navigational discovery opened the new chapter in the world. Expansion of Portuguese in India. सबसे पहले ये देखें Portuguese were the first European power to come to India. Shown this is same of three expansion of Portuguese in India. Vasco da Gama's successful voyage led Portugal to dispatch additional fleets to India under the guidance of under the guidance of Pedro Alvarez Cabral in 500. In October 502, Vasco da Gama made his second visit to Calicut and this time shifted his base from Calicut to Cochin. This pattern of sending annual expedition continued for few years. However, later on, Portuguese shifted their uh, strategy, strategy. Instead of yearly voyages, they decided to establish a more permanent presence in India by appointing a viceroy and establishing trade centers and factories, emphasizing long-term governance and control. Thus, within 50 years of Vasco da Gama arrival, many coastal parts parts passed under the Portuguese governance, as shown in the table. Thus, the Portuguese king Manuel I appointed Francisco de Emery as the first Portuguese governor in India for the purpose of establishing fort and trade factories by ensuring trade privileges from local rulers. Over the course of time, the Portuguese established a structural, structured administrative system for the empire, with a viceroy and the as the highest authority representing the Portuguese crown. Administrative officials like Captain of Goa handled defense, Chief Just dispensed justice, and the Senate played a key role in local governance. Additionally, the church, led by Archbishop of Goa, held significant and spiritual and administrative powers. Sure, you know that. Francisco de Amida, Francisco de Amida, to strengthen Portugal's presence in India and disrupt the Arab merchant monopolization in the Arabian Sea. Almeida, Almeida started creating forts at Anji, Angitiva Island, Cochin, Cananore, Quilon for secure procurement of trade goods. However, soon there was a growing realization among the Portuguese that the securing safe sea lanes of communication is imperative for the profitable trade in Arabian Sea, and thus Almeida devised the policy of blue water. However, soon there was growing realization among the Portuguese that the securing safe sea lanes of communication is imperative for profitable trade in Arabian Sea, and thus Almeida devised the policy of blue water. Explain its meaning. Factories in the context of European trading post was the establishment where European companies conducted their trading activities. Unlike modern factories where goods are manufactured, these historical factories served as walled enclosure primarily for warehousing and storing purposes. They often had guard for security, including facilities like a store, offices, residence for the trader. The individual in charge of managing a factory is known as factor. Over time some of these factories were transformed into fortresses as seen in Fort William in Calcutta. Okay. Cutlass. Yeah. You. Quite an Elena. Quite an Elena. The policy of blue water was said to be the precursor model of policy of string of pearls, which is being currently applied by China in the Indian Ocean to encircle India's important trade and strategic ports by creating Chinese port at strategic locations such as, for example, Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. Similarly, Portuguese creating started creating trade blocks on the major sea route by patches. Mm, Thank you.